So plenty of economic data there in several countries, and that yield curve all pointing to economic troubles ahead. Well, let's talk about that now with Steve Pruitt, managing partner of Watts Partners and former staff director of the Committee on the Budget of the United States House of Representatives. Welcome back, Steve.
Thank you.
So a lot is being made about this inverted yield curve, and we know that it's a signal, but not necessarily a definite sign that a recession's on the way. But why is this raising such alarm bells in the U.S.?
Well, I think because this is one signal that no one can ignore. There have been other signs that we've been watching in the economy now, probably for the last 6 to 9 months, that have all suggested a slowdown, reductions, other things that were on the horizon. But in this case, these numbers are irrefutable.
And we have seen that the U.S. has really never faced a recession with so much debt and so little wiggle room for the Fed in terms of ammunition. In fact, the Fed's recession probability model showed a 31.5% chance of recession in the next 12 months. And to give some context, that's actually higher than July of 2007, ahead of the big global financial crisis. But how does the current economic situation compare with what we saw back then?
Well, I think there are some fundamentals in our economy today that, quite frankly, are very strong, that will help to cushion, if you will, the American economy as we go into a recession. Unemployment probably is the most visible one because it's so low and that we're nearly at a full employment range. But there are other factors that are also looking good. I mean, even though the stock market numbers are fluctuating right now, they're still well above 2,500. The bond markets, again, the inversion causes some concern there, but America is still paying its debts, even with our debts. So, I think we're in much better shape to survive this one, but it's going to hurt.
Now, other places that are worried include Europe. You have Germany's data down. You have all this uncertainty over Brexit. And then you have Italy, a huge economy teetering on recession with a lot of implications for the rest of the EU. What do you think is the most troubling in that region?
Well, I think the Brexit situation is probably going to be a make or break situation for much of the EU. Unfortunately, the way that the British have positioned themselves now on the Brexit issue totally leaves them without options. It's either in or out, and once they go out, as is currently the projection, whatever will be in terms of the damage to the economy. And it will take them much longer to recover than were they positioned for a slow exit or some other plan, one of the other plans that was being proposed by the former prime minister.
And on top of the concerns for the US and Europe, you also have Latin America's biggest economies with recession fears. You have China having some recent down data, political, economic turmoil in Venezuela. Which regions of the world are giving you the most concern?
Well, Europe, certainly. That's going to be big. I would say most economists and observers are not as concerned about South America. We're watching what happens in Asia very closely. I think there is a real danger of underestimating the damage that the U.S.-China trade battle is going to have longer term. But it's clear that as long as it goes on, the situation is only going to get worse. So.
And are there any particular countries that you think are closest to the brink of recession at this point?
I don't think anyone is necessarily closest to the brink of recession. We're all going to go under together because our economies are all tied so closely. That being said, I suspect, however, that once it starts to happen, it'll be like watching children coming down a slide in the playground. You know, each kid comes down from the top. Some come faster than others. And we'll see how quickly the line clears and the recovery begins.
And just quickly, if you had to give your top indicator that people should be looking at as we look at some of the global concerns when it comes to recession? What should we be keeping an eye on?
I think we should continue to watch commodity prices. Everybody in the world has to eat. So commodity prices are going to be critical going forward. Secondly, I would certainly want to watch what's happening with gold and precious metals. And then lastly, I'd probably want to see what, if anything, happens in the currency markets, whether or not the easing that we're seeing right now does indeed become a permanent problem.
All right, thank you so much. Steve Pruitt there, Managing Partner at Watts Partners and former Staff Director of the Committee on the Budget of the United States of the House of Representatives. Thank you so much.